everyone, my name is Meredith Moore and I'm a PM on the Azure Cosmos DB team. And in this session, we'll be discussing Azure Cosmos DB for NoSQL API, formerly the SQL API. I'll highlight some of the NoSQL API's unique capabilities before showing you how you can get started for free in under 5 minutes. So if that sounds good to you, what is Azure Cosmos DB? So commonly it can be described as a multi-model database service globally distributed with SLA-backed speed at any scale and availability. But for today's session, we'll define it as Microsoft's fast distributed database supporting both NoSQL and relational workloads at any scale. So let's dive in. Perhaps you're wondering what I mean by NoSQL. Well, NoSQL can be explained as non-relational and horizontally scalable. Let's explore this further, starting with horizontally scalable. Unless your workload's very small with a low amount of data and requests, your data will likely be stored on a number of different physical servers or partitions within something we call a container. Now in Cosmos, we abstract all this away, but under the hood, you're reading and writing data in and out of Cosmos across a cluster of servers. This is better known as scale-out, and it's how we achieve horizontal scalability, enabling unlimited storage. So when you need more storage, we just add more servers to your cluster to give you what you need. And additionally, when you need more throughput than your clusters are capable of providing, we can add more servers and compute to meet your throughput requirements. The second feature to introduce is non-relational. So what does that even mean? You probably already know that when you work with relational databases, you can set relational constraints between the different types of entities in the database. This lets you do things like set up foreign keys between your entities and do join operations across your dataset. Cosmos DB for NoSQL does not have relational constraints. And why is this so? So at a high level, it's because Cosmos is horizontally scalable, and your data will likely be spread across multiple servers, tens, hundreds, maybe even thousands, depending on your storage and throughput requirements. So technically, it's not impossible to enforce relational constraints across a cluster of servers, but doing so would have an enormous impact on the performance and availability of your database. And because Cosmos DB for NoSQL is designed to provide predictable performance, we do not provide a way to declare relational constraints. So now, is Cosmos DB for NoSQL suitable for relational workloads? Why, yes. If you think about it, most of the real-world use cases we're dealing with are more or less relational. But because Cosmos DB for NoSQL doesn't let you define relational constraints, we have to use different techniques to show how the entity types are related. The most important thing is that this is not the same as modeling data on a relational database. All of the best practices for common relational databases do not work with NoSQL, and many of them might even be anti-patterns. So now that you have a good understanding of NoSQL and that it's horizontally scalable, offering unlimited storage and throughput, and that it's non-relational, offering flexible schema, let's get started with using Azure Cosmos DB for NoSQL. So it's incredibly easy to start for free on a single instance and grow to any scale without changing your app. You can try out Cosmos DB for free for 30 days without any commitment using aka.ms/trycosmosdb, and you'll have the option to extend or upgrade within your trial period. So this is perfect if you just want to kick the tires a bit, maybe you have an app that you want to build, or you want to try out a hackathon project. So I'll demo for you how you can get started with sample data in just 5 minutes. So as I mentioned earlier, Cosmos DB is a multi-model database with support for MongoDB, Apache Cassandra, PostgreSQL, which enables open source developers to use PostgreSQL data in Azure Cosmos DB. And if I navigated to others, I can select the Table API for applications written in Azure Table Storage or the Gremlin Graph API. I'm going to use the Cosmos DB for NoSQL API, and this is a document data model. So a document can be any structured data type, but JSON's commonly used, and JSON's what's supported natively. You can also use SQL syntax to query your items. So all I need to start is to sign in with my Microsoft account, and if you don't have one, you'll just be asked to create one right away using an email address and creating a password, or you can sign in with your GitHub. The whole process takes less than a minute. So no long sign up, no credit card, no commitment. The account was created for me in seconds. So now I can go and open it up in the Azure portal where I land in Data Explorer. This is a tool I can use to interact with my data, and right away I can get started with some sample data, or perhaps I prefer to connect to my database, or maybe I want to complete one of our learning modules first. I'm new, so I want to start with sample data, and I launch Quick Start, and it's going to walk me through creating a database and how to use Data Explorer. So it's named my database, it's set my throughput, and since I'm just getting started, it's recommending to share the throughput across my containers I create within my database. And by selecting auto scale, it will automatically scale up to the max request units I've set, which is 1,000. I can change these configurations after creation, and there's a lot of helpful information about throughput and auto scale and request units in our Cosmos DB docs. So my container's named, and the partition key is set, and the partition key is the name of the property Cosmos DB will use to decide which logical partition my data should go to. So you can think about this as an address to route your data. Now I'm ready to get started. So within a minute, my database will be created. So now you have a mindful moment to relax, take a few breaths, or stretch while the creation is happening. Great, my database is ready. So I can view data under items. I can also view them using the filter function. And maybe I have my own data that I want to add. So this is where I can upload JSON. And this is where I can select to run a SQL query, or I can use the filter function. And remember that I said you can change the throughput configurations. Well, here's where you can set that. And this is the thing that we're going to cut out right here, so I'll just skip to the next one. So lastly, I can connect to my app using my connection string, or if I don't have an app, I can get started with a sample app using one of these languages here. And when I'm ready to upgrade or extend my trial, I can do so by selecting the upgrade banner, and I'll do that here in Overview. And I'll first need to sign in to my account or create a new Azure account. And then once I've done that and created my Azure Cosmos DB for NoSQL account, then I simply can find my connection string, paste that in here, and move my data over. So we can move all of your sandbox data into your production. So now you know how to create your own Azure Cosmos DB account with sample data in minutes. Please do so at aka.ms/trycosmosdb, and thank you so much and enjoy the conference.